My name is Paul Carey Jones, and I'm the bass baritone soloist in this piece. I have to say, one of the things that first struck me about the piece, compared to other composers' masses, of which there are many, is there's a point in many masses where you feel the composers run out of ideas. So they start off with the Kyrie and it's brilliant, and then there's the Gloria, and then they sort of get to the Credo and they sort of run out of steam, and then you feel they had a deadline on Thursday for the choir to rehearse it for Sunday, and so on. The Missa Cambrensis is almost the opposite. It gets better and better and more profound and more imaginative as it goes on. So I think it's the ending for me that really hits home the strongest, because it's not strong. It's very disappears off into this very ethereal Dona Nobis Pacem, really digging into the seriousness of those words. So I think that's what's most striking about it. It's a mass that draws you in and keeps you nailed to your seat right to the end. It really, it stands comparison with anything. I really believe that. It's a piece that requires a lot of detailed work. You can't throw it together because it'll fall apart. And when you give it that detail, then it really comes together, and you hear exactly what an incredible piece of music it is. But it's not a piece that can be sight read. It's not a piece, choral societies be warned, it's not a piece that can be thrown together in 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon. You have to give it the love and attention it really deserves. I think the difficulty of it is, and it's right that we address why this piece hasn't had more of a life since its premiere. It's not a difficult piece in terms of its writing or the challenge it sets the musicians tonally or harmonically. It's very well written for virtuosic musicians, for professional forces. That's a given. But I think the point is it's a very difficult piece to rehearse, in the sense that it needs a lot of time. Given the time, it reaps its rewards. But I think that to me is the major factor in why it's viewed as this problematic piece. I don't think it is, but I think it does require a great deal of attention from a very highly skilled team of musicians. Once you give it that, then it really does reveal something very special. So at some point of the preparation, you have to get the entire team in one room and put it together. That's the difficulty of it, because that's the challenge that Grace Williams has set us in this incredibly virtuosic, intricate writing that she's produced for this piece. So it's really over the last few days that it's really come together, and you've appreciated how it all ties in together. Until you get to that point, you can't really appreciate this piece. I absolutely think that Grace Williams is an incredibly important composer, in several senses, in terms of her importance to Welsh music, in terms of her importance to British music, where she comes between that sort of that movement around the turn of the 20th century, that she then belongs to that through Britain. But there's also something, and Britain and that generation, but there's also something very unique about her that bridges the gap between that sort of more traditional style of modern writing and what came after. So she's important as a Welsh composer, as a British composer, as a composer in general, but also as a female composer, which is an area we're interested in exploring now, which is not before time. Not that her music needs to be understood in the context of her being a woman. It stands comparison with anything that's been written, but it's also part of her unique character, I think, that you kind of understand. Perhaps she was quite sort of insecure and diffident about. Missa Cambrensis is a great example of that she was very unhappy with how the first performance had gone, and I think that was a major factor in it perhaps not having had so much of a life beyond that until now. So there's several aspects to her that make her a really important composer. But I think above everything, this is a great piece of work, a great piece of music, and this is a piece of music which really deserves to be discovered and rediscovered. Grace Williams is a composer of whom I've been aware for a very long time. Growing up in Wales and going to school in Cardiff, we knew of her from music lessons. She was one of the most important Welsh composers mentioned in GCSE and A-level music curricula. In terms of her actual work, I'd heard a few of the more famous pieces, but the Missa Cambrensis was something I knew of, but had never actually heard. So it was a very exciting moment when this project first got conceived, and I think it's an important piece. It's an important piece for Welsh music. It's an important piece for British music, so it's really, really exciting that we're at the stage of really putting it on its feet. But I think it's very easy to not, if you think, oh, I want to write a Welsh piece of music, and then there's lots of composers who've done that very successfully. But this is something different. This is not wearing its Welshness on its sleeve for show. This is very deeply, profoundly Welsh. I said to the other soloists yesterday, this is the sort of piece that you want to do at least twice, because it's such a unique sound world, and once you enter that sound world, it makes perfect sense. But it is a sound world that requires a lot of work and a lot of understanding to get into in the first place. So I would love to come back to it again and again, to really dig into what's in there. There's so much in there, and repeat performances and repeat hearings are absolutely the way forward.